Yeah.
99% of our viewers do not subscribe. So please click that subscribe button.
Yes.
I really
Yeah.
like taking you on these little journeys, with me through these primary sources.
Absolutely.
And today's is a fun one.
Yeah.
We're going to be cracking open the congressional record from December 10th, 2024.
Ooh.
Specifically, what happened in the House of Representatives on that day.
Okay. Interesting.
It's kind of like we get to peek behind the curtain a little bit and see what our lawmakers were actually working on.
Right.
A day in the life sort of thing.
It's a bit like a legislative time capsule.
Yeah.
It gives us that real-time snapshot of what was on their agenda that day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you might be surprised by the range of issues that they're actually dealing with.
Sure.
There are bills about clothes washers.
Oh, wow.
Cybersecurity threats from China.
Interesting.
We even have some vulture drama unfolding.
Sounds like a busy day.
Not. Let's start by following the typical path a bill takes.
Okay.
First up, introduction.
Got it.
On this particular day, there were 18 new public bills and 1 resolution introduced. That seems like a lot.
That may seem like a lot, but it's actually within the normal range.
Oh, really?
For a day in the House.
Oh, wow.
What's interesting here is the variety.
Yeah.
Each bill represents a specific issue someone felt strongly enough about to bring to the national level.
I find it fascinating to
Yeah.
see what bubbles up to that point.
Absolutely.
Okay, so after a bill is introduced, it often gets sent to a committee for further review.
Right.
Before that happens, though,
Yeah.
House reports are often filed. You can think of them like summaries
Right.
and analyses of these bills. And this day had 15 of them.
Wow.
Some caught my eye.
Okay.
We had reports on managing water resources that cross international borders.
Those are called transboundary aquifers.
Oh, they have a name for that.
They do.
It-
They can be a real point of contention, especially as water scarcity becomes a more pressing issue globally.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we have a report on a bill to create a manatee semi-postal stamp.
I love those.
You know those special stamps where part of the price goes to a particular cause?
Right. Yeah.
This one likely supports manatee conservation efforts.
I would imagine so.
It's a reminder that even amidst these weighty topics, there's still room for a little charm.
It's those little things that make these records so human.
Yeah.
You
Okay, now let's look at some House actions.
Okay.
Where we see what actually passed.
Got it.
First up, the Thomas R. Carper Water Resources Development Act.
Okay.
Sailed through with an overwhelming 399 yeas to only 18 nays.
That's a strong bipartisan endorsement.
Yeah.
Water security is a growing concern for everyone, especially with climate change impacting droughts and water availability.
Right.
So it makes sense that this particular act garnered such broad support.
I'm always interested when we see those moments of agreement in today's political climate.
Me too.
Now, in contrast to that near unanimous vote,
Right.
the Liberty and Laundry Act, which, yes, is about clothes washers,
What?
squeaked by with a much closer 215 yays to 200 nays.
A real nail biter on the laundry front.
Right.
What likely happened there is we have a clash of priorities.
Uh-huh.
Regulations for appliances often involve balancing the desires of consumers
Okay.
who might want cheaper or more feature-rich machines
Right.
with environmental concerns like
Yeah.
water and energy efficiency.
Sure.
And then you have the manufacturers themselves lobbying for their interests.
Of course.
A close vote like this suggests those competing forces were pretty evenly matched.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
It goes to show that even seemingly mundane things like clothes washers can become battlegrounds for different values and interests.
You said it.
Okay, shifting gears a bit.
Right.
We see a cluster of 3 bills passed, all dealing with cybersecurity,
Interesting.
specifically focused on China.
Okay.
This feels particularly relevant given the current geopolitical landscape.
Concerns about Chinese cyber activity have been escalating for some time, with worries about potential attacks on critical infrastructure or theft of intellectual property.
Right.
These bills, though the specifics would need further examination, likely aim to strengthen our cyber defenses and perhaps even impose some retaliatory measures.
It's definitely a trend to keep our eyes on as those tensions continue to simmer.
For sure.
Now let's step into the world of congressional committees,
Okay.
where a lot of the nitty-gritty work happens.
Right.
2 hearings from this day stood out to me as particularly relevant to what we see playing out in the news right now.
I'm intrigued.
One was titled, Given the Green Light,
Okay.
Open Border Policies and Threats to Law Enforcement. This obviously taps into the ongoing debate about border security, which we all know is a highly charged issue.
Without a doubt, that hearing was likely a platform for law enforcement officials to voice their experiences and concerns about current border policies and how they impact their ability to do their jobs. It would be fascinating to dig into the specifics of what was said and see if any concrete recommendations emerged.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's always enlightening to hear directly from those on the front lines.
Yeah.
Those perspectives often get lost in the broader political debates.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking of hot-button issues,
Okay.
the second committee meeting that stood out was safeguarding the homeland from unmanned aerial systems.
Okay.
You and I have talked about the rise of drones before,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems Congress is taking notice as well.
Drones present a real conundrum
Yeah.
for security agencies.
I could see that.
They're relatively cheap,
Yeah.
easy to obtain,
Right.
and incredibly versatile,
Yeah.
which unfortunately means they can be used for all sorts of nefarious activities,
Right.
from smuggling contraband to conducting surveillance
Yeah.
or even carrying out attacks.
Yeah. It's scary.
This hearing was likely a deep dive into the technological challenges of detecting and mitigating these drone-based threats, and perhaps exploring potential regulations or countermeasures.
It makes you realize how quickly technology outpaces our ability to control it sometimes.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It's a theme that runs through a lot of the bills and hearings we're seeing here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ready to explore a few more of the bills
I
that popped up in the congressional record that day?
I always am.
Okay.
There was one with a rather long title that caught my eye.
Okay.
Draft Resource Management Plan and Environmental Impact Statement for the Rock Springs RMP Revision, Wyoming.
Ah, yes.
It's a mouthful.
The world of resource management plans.
So what are those?
These are essentially blueprints for how federal lands are used,
Okay.
covering everything from grazing rights and energy development to recreational activities and protecting endangered species.
Wow.
Wyoming, of course, has vast amounts of public land, so any revisions to these plans can have significant economic and environmental consequences.
So I'm guessing this hearing was a chance for all the stakeholders to come to the table and make their voices heard.
Precisely. You'd have ranchers,
Right.
energy companies,
Huh.
environmental groups,
Okay.
local communities, and
Yeah.
government agencies all vying for their interests.
Wow. So a lot of people.
It's a microcosm of that constant tension between development and conservation, which is playing out all over the West.
And speaking of balancing competing needs,
Yeah.
there's another hearing focused on managing resources,
Okay.
this time along the Colorado River.
Okay.
Draft Resource Management Plan and Draft Supplemental Environmental Impact Statement for the Colorado River Valley Field Office and Grand Junction Field Office Resource Management Plans.
The Colorado River is a lifeline for the entire Southwest.
Oh, wow.
But it's also incredibly overallocated,
I can imagine.
with the ongoing mega drought and climate change intensifying water scarcity.
Yeah.
These management plans are under intense scrutiny. This hearing was likely a forum for discussing the potential impact on everything from agriculture and urban water supplies to the survival of endangered fish species and the recreational opportunities that draw millions to the river each year.
It makes you appreciate just how interconnected these systems are.
Absolutely.
You can't change one thing without impacting a whole chain of others.
That's the challenge of resource management.
Yeah.
It's like a giant puzzle where every piece is connected and the stakes are incredibly high.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and look at some other bills that piqued my curiosity.
Okay.
We've got one called the Good Samaritan Remediation of Abandoned Hard Rock Mines Act of 2024.
Interesting.
I know we have a lot of old mines scattered across the country,
Yeah.
but I'm not familiar with this act.
It's actually a very interesting approach to tackling a legacy of pollution.
Mm.
You see, those abandoned hard rock mines
Yeah.
often leach toxic substances into the surrounding environment, contaminating water sources and posing risks to human health.
I see.
Cleaning them up can be incredibly costly.
Makes sense.
And often no one wants to take responsibility.
Right.
This act seems to be about incentivizing cleanup efforts by offering some liability protection
Okay.
to groups or individuals willing to step up and do the work.
Yeah.
It's like a good Samaritan law for environmental cleanup.
It's a clever way to try and address a problem that's often just ignored or passed off.
Right.
Okay, here's one I know you'll be interested in.
Okay.
The Amtrak Transparency and Accountability for Passengers and Taxpayers Act.
Ah, yes. Anything to do with Amtrak always catches my attention.
I know you love trains.
I do.
This act appears to be focused on increasing oversight of Amtrak's operations,
Uh-huh.
particularly its board of directors.
Okay.
It likely aims to make their meetings and decision-making processes more transparent to the public, which is in line with the broader push for government accountability.
More transparency is rarely a bad thing.
Right.
It's all about ensuring that those in power are held responsible for their decisions and that the public has a say in how their tax dollars are spent.
Okay, one last bill before we move on.
Okay.
This one made me do a double take.
Yay!
A bill to authorize livestock producers and their employees to take black vultures in order to prevent death, injury, or destruction to livestock.
You read that correctly?
Do I write that right?
It might seem odd,
Vultures.
but black vultures can actually be quite aggressive
Oh, wow.
and have been known to attack and kill livestock, particularly young calves and lambs.
Hmm.
This bill was likely introduced in response to concerns from ranchers who've experienced these losses and are looking for ways to protect their herds.
It's kind of a problem for them then.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even seemingly niche issues can find their way onto the congressional agenda when they impact people's livelihoods.
That's such an important point.
Yeah.
It's easy to get lost in the weeds of legislative language and procedural details, but at the heart of it all are real people grappling with real-world challenges.
Yeah, every bill represents a story, a concern, or a need that someone is trying to address.
That's right.
Well, we've certainly covered a lot of ground in this part of our exploration as the congressional record.
Yeah, we have.
From border security and drone threats to water management and even vulture legislation. It's been quite a journey.
And we're not done yet.
Right.
There are still more fascinating insights to uncover from this single day in Congress.
Okay.
Stay with us as we head into the final part of our exploration.
And we're back.
We are.
I have to say, I'm finding myself increasingly fascinated by these glimpses into the inner workings of Congress.
I know what you mean.
You ready to uncover a few more gems from December 10th, 2024?
Always.
Okay, how about this?
Right.
A bill to redesignate the Salem Maritime National Historic Site as the Salem Maritime National Historical Park.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like a minor tweak, right?
You would think so.
Just swapping site for park.
But these seemingly small changes in wording
Yeah.
can actually have significant implications, symbolically and practically. Shifting from historic site to historical park could suggest a broader focus on the park's natural environment in addition to its historical significance.
Oh, okay.
It might even open up opportunities for different types of funding or management strategies.
It makes you appreciate the power of language.
It does.
Yeah, even a subtle shift can ripple outwards, changing how we perceive and interact with the place.
That's the beauty of language.
Yeah.
It shapes our understanding of the world.
Okay, here's one that personally resonates with me.
Okay.
A bill to establish the Jackie Robinson Ballpark National Commemorative Site in Florida.
Right.
I'm a huge baseball fan, and
Yeah.
Jackie Robinson's story is one that I think everyone should know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier in Major League Baseball was a watershed moment in American history.
Yeah.
It challenged deeply ingrained racial prejudices and paved the way for greater equality in sports and beyond.
And beyond, even.
Establishing a national commemorative site would be a powerful way to preserve his legacy and educate future generations about his courage and the struggle for racial justice.
It's about ensuring that those stories of courage and perseverance continue to inspire us.
Right.
Okay, ready for the little legal puzzle?
Sure.
There's a bill to convey the reversionary interest of the United States in certain land in Sacramento, California. Now, I'm not a lawyer,
Okay.
so I need your help deciphering this one.
All right. Think of it this way.
Okay.
The government was holding on to some rights to this land,
Right.
like a potential claim down the line,
Uh-huh.
and now they're deciding to let those rights go.
Okay.
It'll be interesting to see who ends up with full ownership of that land and what they plan to do with it.
It's those little mysteries tucked away in these records that I find so intriguing.
I would agree.
Each bill has a story behind it, a whole chain of events and motivations that led to its creation.
That's why I love exploring these documents with you.
Yeah.
It's like we're detectives piecing together a narrative of our nation's past, present, and future.
Here's another one that highlights the ongoing challenges of resource management.
Okay.
A bill to amend the Klamath Basin Water Supply Enhancement Act of 2000,
Okay.
granting the Secretary of the Interior more authority over projects affecting the Klamath Basin watershed.
Ah, the Klamath Basin. It's a region where water rights have been fiercely contested for decades,
Now,
with farmers, Native American tribes, and environmentalists all vying for access to a dwindling supply.
sounds complicated.
It is.
This amendment suggests that the original act wasn't quite hitting the mark.
Right.
and that they're trying to fine-tune it, perhaps giving the Secretary of the Interior more flexibility to navigate those competing demands.
That's likely what's happening.
It goes to show that governing is rarely about finding perfect solutions.
Yeah.
It's more about constant adaptation and trying to find the best possible balance in a complex and ever-changing world.
That's a very insightful observation.
Thanks.
It's about navigating those gray areas, those spaces where competing values and interests intersect.
All right, one last bill before we wrap up our exploration.
Okay.
This one seems straightforward.
Right.
A bill to redesignate Saratoga National Historical Park as Saratoga National Battlefield Park.
Right.
Another name change, but this one feels like it carries a lot of weight.
You're right. The Battle of Saratoga was a decisive victory for the Continental Army during the Revolutionary War, a turning point that convinced France to ally with the American colonists.
Oh, wow.
This name change could be a way to emphasize the site's significance as a battlefield and draw more attention to this pivotal moment in our nation's history.
It's incredible how much ground we've covered in just one day's worth of congressional activity.
It is remarkable.
From maritime history and baseball legends to water rights and national security. It's a testament to the vast scope of issues that our lawmakers grapple with on a daily basis.
And we've only scratched the surface.
Right.
The congressional record is a treasure trove of insights into the legislative process. It allows us to track the evolution of ideas, the clash of ideologies, and the compromises that shape the course of our nation.
It's a powerful reminder that even amidst the partisan gridlock and political theater, there's a lot of important work happening behind the scenes work that directly impacts our lives and the future we're building together.
I couldn't agree more. It's in these details, in these seemingly mundane records, that we find the essence of democracy in action.
And that brings us to the end of our journey through the congressional record from December 10th, 2024.
It does.
I hope you found it as enlightening as I did.
I did.
Don't forget 99% of our viewers have not subscribed.
Really?
Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future episodes as we continue to explore the fascinating world of primary sources.
Please do.
Until next time, stay curious.